the Better Life, Better Work show, and I'm your host, Allison Crow. I'm an intuitive life and business coach here to help you create better life and better work. I help super successful people, the recovering overachievers, put the soul back in their lives, and I help soulful people create success. On this show, topics range from the mystic to the logistic, and our content will support your being and your doing while on your path to create better life and better work. More is not better. Better is better. Hello, soulful people. This is episode number 151. I'm Allison Crow, your host who is consumed with allergies here in the Austin, Texas area. I have a few things to share with you today, as usual. Kind of a casual podcast. I'm not recording live. It's just you and me and this giant microphone. And I've got a couple rescue dogs at my feet sleeping. So this morning, one of my rescue dogs, who I'm very thankful to be alive, like in May, I was pretty much given the hint by the veterinarian that my dog Rocky would die of liver failure. And I started cooking not raw food. I started cooking food for him instead of giving him kibble. And Rocky, who up until then had slept until 8:30 every single day, now wakes up at 4 fucking a.m. Well, this morning it was at 3:40 a.m. and it was my turn to get up the dogs and do the dogs. So that was just kind of a disastrous, not a whole lot of sleep morning. And then for some reason, Leroy decided to get really protective and was barking at the neighbor, taking out the trash. And it was just one of those mornings where my husband and I look at each other and forget how much we love our dogs. And we were rolling our eyes about having dogs. And so I knew that that wasn't the energy I wanted to carry throughout the day. And I go to take off my pajamas and I listened to a podcast that came out where I was the guest. I was the guest this last week on Sue Revell's Woman on a Mission podcast. And it's been a few weeks, maybe even a month or more since we recorded it. And I don't know, a couple months ago, I actually did a vulnerable request and asked other podcasters if I could be guest on their show, which I don't pitch podcast. Every once in a while, someone invites me, but I just wanted to be on some other people's shows. So I asked, and Sue was one of the people that jumped and said, yes, please. And so we recorded. And y'all, it is both vulnerable and awkward and awesome to listen to yourself. And that's what my episode is about today in more ways than one. As many of you know, I am a student of internal family systems. Someone chewed my ass last week on my Facebook page, saying I shouldn't be practicing a therapeutic modality as a coach. And I thought it was interesting. This person knew me and that they couldn't even trust, I think I wake up to break the law every fucking day. For real, it's not how I responded. I actually responded in self. Please be assured, I am not doing therapy with my clients. And I'm being trained as a coach by the Internal Family Systems Organization. So I am following the guidance of my teachers and my mentors and not somebody who has a really strong opinion about me on Facebook. So as you know, I'm studying and in love with and encouraging all of you to study, whether you study officially or get the books or listen to podcasts. I think internal family systems and the paradigm and the spiritual, mental, emotional body practice of seeing ourselves this way is truly life-changing. And I'm not just talking my life. I'm talking it's just a subtle shift that makes a big fucking difference in how we see the world. And so I thought it was interesting that as I'm listening to myself on another podcast, I'm getting wisdom. And it made me chuckle because the work I've been doing with my clients lately has been asking them to listen inside. And I just had this insight walking those dogs that were driving me so nuts that so often we simply don't listen to ourselves. Remember, depending on how old you were, remember when answering machines came out and like you had to record your outgoing voice message and you would listen to it and you're like, I sound so weird on audio. And then we started getting phones and had to do the same thing and it would replay your message, but we would all cringe at listening to ourselves. Literally. But I think I know that we have been discouraged from listening to ourselves, and we are trained to listen to the world and to somebody selling us shit and to the patriarchy and to the control and power systems that today can all go fuck themselves. What if we listen to ourselves? And so one of the best things my coach/therapist, she's a leadership coach, she's also a trained therapist, Rebecca Ching, has said to me in session 2 of us working together back in February was, don't coach yourself. Sweet Jesus, that was gold. So don't coach yourself because, right, like I'm a coach. I think like a coach. I ask all these questions. And she knew what I didn't at the time and now do was that all these parts of me, especially the ones that have been annihilated and exiled and pushed to the corners and shamed and blamed and criticized and beaten up and hidden and ignored for years. Parts that I've called shadow or negative. And I no longer see that. They are not negative and they are not shadow. They are a part of my internal family. And just like any family member, they want to be seen and heard and feel significant. And they might need a little guidance after they've had permission to share their story. And so I've been talking with clients and, what does that part of you want you to know? Following the models of the things I learned, which I won't go into here, but a lot of it is getting to a place of self-energy and then listening to these protector parts. These parts that are rigid and controlling and perfectionism and anxiety and anger and disappointment and shame and blame and guilt and all the different ways they show up inside our heads. P.S. I did a scientific study last week with one person, my husband. We were driving somewhere. We live about 20 minutes from, all the box stores. And so we were driving into town, what we call it. And from one stoplight to the next, I had 900,000 thoughts, but was totally silent in the car. And I looked over to my husband, who had also been totally silent. And I said, hey, how many thoughts did you have between this last light and this one? And he was like, I don't know, a whole bunch. And I was like, I had like 1 billion. And he goes, well, I did too. That's what's normal. So therefore, I have scientifically proven that we all have thoughts all the fucking time. And thoughts are always parts wanting my attention, and often wanting attention in a way that doesn't feel good or that itches or that's uncomfortable. And for years, I shoved all that stuff down, and maybe you have too. In a lot of ways, I still shove things down, and I'm still learning and I am listening. And so I am both listening in my intentional practices. I have a practice of listening in my journal and very, determined to sit and scan my system and listen. And I'm learning how to listen in between the moments of everyday life. And then today, this podcast came up. And I don't normally go back and listen to my own podcast. I have every once in a while. And usually when I do, I'm like, damn, that was good. I mean, I might ramble on a little bit, but that was some good insight. And it helps me remember who I am. And today, when I listened to my episode on the Woman on a Mission podcast with Sue Revell, I'll share the link in the bio. I was like, that is some good shit. I also had some parts go off about, the way that I ramble and what I do. And even as I found myself like putting a hand on my forehead and going, oh boy, I did this, I was compassionate with myself instead of critical. And I told Sue, I'm like, sorry I talk so much, but not sorry I talk so much. And so not only did I listen to my own wisdom on somebody else's podcast, and it helped me remember who I am. And I'm not talking professionally. I'm talking as a being inside. A couple weeks ago, I listened to my own episode on the procrastination coach, Dr. Christine Lee. She was so generous and gave me the opportunity to be a guest on her podcast, and I listened to that one too. And I was like, dang, I needed to hear that. So while it might sound rather narcissistic, notice how there's always parts of us that pathologize something. There's always parts of us that decide that we all of a sudden have some disorder, especially if we are being self-referenced. But what I'm learning in these themes I'm picking up are take some time to listen to yourself. Perhaps instead of making yourself talk less, what if you spoke more? We have a thing in Solis, my coaching membership community, Self-Leadership Society, we call Babble Your Way to Brilliance. And it's so interesting how many people often, and probably including myself, oh, I'm sorry I talk so much. And I'm like, let it rip. And I remember often in some coaching circles, especially my origins, where I started out as a coach early, like it was all about cutting the person off and not let them be in their story. But our story wants us, and we can listen without believing the story. Just because we listen with compassion and care and connected to ourselves doesn't mean we have to buy the story. It doesn't mean we have to change our behavior because we listen to a part of us share uncomfortable feelings and experiences. But there's something valuable, just like you probably already know the value of witnessing another. There's something really valuable about witnessing yourself. What if you stopped censoring yourself? I mean, don't go be an asshole on somebody's Facebook page when it's inappropriate. And if you feel curious, how about you reach out personally instead of making a assumptive attack, but especially on your own platforms, in your own journals, in your own heart. What if you slowed down and really heard yourself? Don't just hear yourself, really hear. Really listen to the parts of you that need to be heard. Listen to your professional self. Create your own podcast recordings or read your own writing. You might just fall in love with yourself and build a little bit more self-trust. And if you are repulsed at the thought of listening to yourself, I see you. Maybe just take a breath and be with that repulsed part. As we say in my program, hello, repulsed at listening to myself. I see you. I won't leave you. I'm here for you. And so, yes, I will keep listening to my teachers and my mentors and my podcasts that I listen to and the books that I listen to. And I will listen to all the experts and all the poets and all the authors. And I might even listen to my husband every once in a while. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to check in and listen to me. Heck, not just at the end of the day, but throughout the day, I'm building a relationship with listening to my whole being. Not only listening to my words, but listening to my body, listening to my intuition, listening to my nudges. And so, dear ones listening today, perhaps pause the podcast, sit in some silence, no social media input, and be with yourself and see how that feels. See what you think about it and just notice. Don't try to change it. Just as Thich Nhat Hanh says, there, I see you. I won't leave you. I'm here for you. And I'm so curious about what could be possible for you if you are able to meet all the layers of you. I love it. It's the journey of a lifetime. And if you want some support doing that or want to be in a community of people who are doing that as a default, like as just a way of being, right? This is not just a skill, but it's a who you be as a part of our identity. And I realize, y'all know, I've had podcast episodes on identity. Like my identity creates my behaviors, and my behaviors create the way I show up in the world. And the way I show up in the world creates the results I get in my life, in my business, in my health, in my relationships. And something different is happening once I started really listening to all the parts of me. Sending you so much love. Oh, let me finish inviting you. Maybe you want to come be a member of Soli's Self-Leadership Society. Why is it called self-leadership? Self-leadership is about listening from self to all these different parts and not letting these parts run the show. We still listen to them, but relieving them of their outdated and overworked duties and helping them find right alignment and peace in our system. And we do that in the context of running our businesses, because running our business is the greatest personal fucking development ever. All right, people, I will probably have another delay between this podcast and the next episode next weekend. Sweet small number of clients are coming out to the Texas Hill Country to meet themselves through expressive art. We are going to be painting in the woods together. So, you know me, I'll do my podcast when I do it. I appreciate your ears. If this resonated with you, before you stop and listen to yourself, share it with a friend or share it on social media. Thanks for helping me spread love and wisdom and self-listening to the world. Peace out, mofos. As always, thanks for listening. Totally appreciate you thinking about somebody who might really love this episode and you sharing it with them. Also, I always appreciate your reviews. It's like podcast currency. It's like a tip in the jar saying thanks. And finally, if you want to share on social media, a screenshot, or any insights you get from listening to this episode, I will totally respond. You can share with the hashtag BetterLifeBetterWorkShow. This show is sponsored by my 3 rescued dogs, Leroy Brown, Clementine, and Rocky Potato. They're here to remind you to consider adoption when you get your next pet. More is not better, better is better.